Hey guys, my name is Liz and I'm here to teach you guys some tips and tricks for my no knit Fourth Doctor look-alike scarf. It is a no crochet, no knitting method, and it is a great project for beginner sewers. So if you're watching from my YouTube channel, make sure you check out my entire Instructable on the link below. Today though, I'm only going to be teaching you in this video how to lay down stretchy fabric and the proper way to cut it, testing your fabric for fraying, and then I'm going to show you guys the zigzag stitch on my sewing machine. Also, I'm going to be teaching you guys a useful trick that I learned along the way in dealing with stretchy fabrics and putting them together. So let's get started on the tips and tricks for the No Knit Fourth Doctor look-alike scarf. After you've pre-washed and dried your material, start by laying out your fabric gently. Try your best to not stretch it. Carefully take out the wrinkles and reduce stretching by patting down the fabric to return it to its rested and relaxed state. This should give you the most accurate measurement when cutting. I'm using a roller to align the end of fabric that I've already cut. If you do your due diligence early on to create straight lines, the preceding cuts will be easier. Next, measure the length you need for the segment of scarf you are working on. Be cautious of extra stretchy fabric and give about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch extra leeway. Before starting the project, make sure to cut a piece of test fabric and see how it behaves after being cut. Does it shrink or curl up? This will give you an estimation of how much leeway you will need before moving forward on each cut. So this is what I have so far right after I just cut this fabric, and you're going to notice that there's a lot of differences in how they behave after they're cut. If you've noticed, I'm sure you have, that is the biggest problem here, is that it frays a lot, because as soon as you cut it up, that's what happens. So initially I had tried to sew just something to kind of protect it from fraying too much. What I ended up doing was not using those pieces as much and just leaving it blank like this, letting it fray, so I would have to inevitably cut off at the very end. And of course, I was more sensitive with these pieces, and so I would set these to the side, not touch them until I needed them. All right, so the next piece of materials that I used, so I had the scarves, I had this interesting shawl material. The only pieces that I actually purchased in a bulk fabric from Joann's, they're a knit interlock fabric solid. So you can tell when you do the test, no fraying, yay! However, these were very stretchy. If you didn't get the stretch right, they would actually shrink. And if you notice in the scarf, if you pay attention to how I overlap when I put them together, I actually let these pieces overlap even more. I'm gonna start like a little 90-degree line, so that way going forward, all of my fabrics are gonna be lining up with this piece of fabric. I don't like these little fuzzy parts right here because it doesn't make for good sewing. I would probably trim them off later in the end, but I really want to make sure that I define this line now. And then we take our yellow fabric, and I would do the same thing to the yellow fabric, but it looks like I've already done that to the ends there. And when I sew, I like to see what the other side is doing. And so right here, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm laying this down so this doesn't shift this way while I'm sewing. So if you're very careful with like very delicate fabrics that keep fraying like this, I would just wait until you get this first sew down. And then go ahead and trim those up. I'm gonna start with the simple zigzag and take the first pin out. Always want to backstitch. And the reason why I'm lifting the foot up so much is because if you notice, like the fabric just keeps bunching up, because this is a non-stretchy fabric and this is a very flexible fabric. So you just want to keep working it in, making sure that it gets pushed along. You see how it's bunching up there. So you just kind of lift, relieve some of the pressure from here, and then it goes underneath the foot this way. End pieces are usually the most difficult. And you can see we're actually with this particular piece, because it's longer and I've left room for error, if you will, for it to stretch as I'm sewing it. So it's actually at the end of this fabric. So I'm gonna go ahead and back stitch. Voila, you've got your, oops, almost perfect. There you go. Now perfect, simple stitch. Just keep in mind what side you're working with. So this is the pretty side, and this is the pretty side. So this is gonna end up folding this way. So basically you're folding it like that. So we're doing the same method, and I'm actually matching it up with the piece that I know is reliable and not stretchy. Make sure as you go along, you're patting it down. You don't want to mess up your lines here. Let's go ahead and put this through the machine. Make sure you're lining it up. If find a line that works best for you. I'm doing a really tight stitch here. Most people start out here and they kind of snip off the little ends. I'm using the foot to actually guide me, to give me a better indication of my straight line. Which is why I pour so much work into making straight lines, is so that I can use the foot of my machine, this particular side, I can use the foot of my machine here to line up this side right here, this green side, and guide it along and make sure that goes straight. All right, so since this is the stretchy one and this is the not stretchy one, not stretchy, I'm doing the same technique, if you notice, as when I laid it out to cut. This little padding really does help. So we're just gonna do one more stitch. Let the foot of the machine pull the fabric as you work. Don't try to pull it away or try to shove too much fabric in, because then it's gonna get all cut up. So just let the foot just guide your fabric along, and you're gonna find that you get much better results and straight lines if you keep in with your foot and you just let the foot go. Make sure to use the zigzag stitch, because all of these fabrics are so stretchy. It'll allow it to give it just a little bit of stretch to all of it. That's it. That's just how you do a simple zigzag stitch. Here's a helpful hint that I learned along the way in dealing with stretchy fabrics. Rather than cutting all the fabrics at once and precisely the width that I was looking for, I allowed the fabric to stretch a little as I sewed it, which left me with one end of my scarf looking a little jagged. After completing a section for my pattern, I went ahead and evened out the ends. To do this, I lined up my straight edge side of my scarf with my ruler, taking care to snip off any end that went out of line. Then measured 11.5 inches and finally cut the other side into a straight edge.